on Facebook. All right, I think we are ready to go. Let's see. Facebook Live. Sound okay. Nice to see everybody. All right, we're ready for the Bhagavad Gita study today. And we're going to continue with the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the next to the last chapter. And we're going to start with text 7 today. The visions of faith. So first we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Kiri Baradhati Gopi Jana Ballabha Giri Baradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Umadhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Vihari Gopi Jana Malaba Kiri Baradhati Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Baradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Teta Siddhi Shimad His Divine Grace. Abhaya Chandananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Vidas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shan Kund Radhagunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagadasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Haribol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Budale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamati Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravati Pachari Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Gaishatarni. So, Om Ganatimiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded and continue to be blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we'll continue with the Bhagavad Gita. Hold on a second. We're going to share the screen. I believe in sharing. Okay, so we are on, as I mentioned before, text 7 of the 17th chapter. 17th chapter is the next to the last chapter. And this chapter is entitled The Divisions of Faith. And what we heard previously in this chapter is that one develops a certain type of faith depending upon what mode of nature he or she is in. If you're in the mode of ignorance, you develop ignorant faith. You worship ghosts and spirits, dead people. You get into Ouija boards and tarot cards. Anyway, sorry about that one. And then, if you're in the mode of passion, you worship demons. So you have one of those hats. If you worship demons, it says M-A-G-A. I'm not going to tell you what that means. So, then, if you're in the mode of goodness, you worship the demigods. And if you're transcendental, you worship Krishna, Ekara, Ishra Krishna, Arasabdavricha. Actually, he's the only one you should be interested in worshiping, and Krishna's devotees. So, because Krishna says, one who says he is a devotee is my devotee, one who says he is my devotee is not my devotee, but one who says he is a devotee of my devotee is my devotee. So, let's continue. Ahara swapi sarvasya trivido bhavati priyaha yagnas tapas tatadhanam tesham bedham imam shinu. Ahara, eating, too, certainly. Api, also. Sarvasya, of everyone. Trivida, three kinds. Bhavati, there is. Priyaha, dear. Yagna, sacrifice. Tapa, austerity. Tata, also. Dhanam, charity. Tesham, of them. Bedham, the differences. Imam, this. Shrinu, here. Translation, even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now, here are the distinctions between them. So we're going to hear about these different varieties of food, sacrifices, charity, austerities, depending on which mode of nature you're in. So you can see which mode you're in by what you become attracted to. Purport. In terms of different situations in the modes of material nature, there are differences in the manner of eating and performing sacrifices, austerities, and charities. They are not at all conducted on the same level. Those who cannot understand, who can understand analytically what kind of performances are in what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate, and they are foolish. There are missionary workers who advocate that one can do whatever he likes and attain perfection. And of course, Prabhupada here is directly referring to Ramakrishna and Vivekananda, especially Vivekananda, the great heroes in Bengal. Yatama tatapat. What that means is do your own thing. I'm okay, you're okay. And as we mentioned in the previous class, Prabhupada said, and I was with him when he said it, we say, I'm okay, but you are not okay. Of course, don't be so callous like that, but we understand that. But these foolish guides are not acting according to the direction of the scripture. So you have to understand, a lot of these references that Prabhupada is making in his purports are to specific individuals or groups of individuals that Prabhupada has come across. And here it's Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. They are manufacturing ways of misleading the people in general. And actually, Ramakrishna mission is called the Murgi Mandir by many in India. Murgi Mandir means chicken mandir, not because they are chickens, because they eat chickens. So, next verse, we're going to talk about food in the mode of goodness and passion here in this verse. Ayu sattva bharagya sukha priti vivardanaha rasya snigdha stita hridya hara hatika priyaha. Ayu, the duration of life, sattva, existence, bala, strength, arogya, health, sukha, happiness, priti, and satisfaction, vivardhanaha, increasing, rashaha, juicy, snigdaha, fatty, stiraha, enduring, hridaya, pleasing to the heart, ahara, food, sattvika, to one in goodness, priyaha, palatable. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, and not animal fat, of course, but just like vegetable fat, like, and also sometimes if people have ahimsa milk, wholesome and pleasing to the heart. So next we're going to talk about food in the mode of passion. Katpamla lavanatushta, tikshna ruksha vidhanaha, ahara rajasa shishta, dukkha shokamaya pradaha. Katu, bitter, amla, sour, lavana, salty, ati ushna, very hot, tikshna, pungent, ruksha, dry, vidahinaha, burning, aharaha, food, rajasasya, to one in the mode of passion, ishtaha, palatable, dukkha, distress, shoka, misery, amaya, disease, pradaha, causing. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, and we could also say too salty, because obviously you can have a little salt, too hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. And just like I mentioned before, one of the types of candy that I ate when I was young was called Red Hot. So you eat it and you just want to drink a ton of water. So next we'll talk about food and mode of ignorance. Yatayamam gata rasam putti paryushitam chayat uchishtam mapicha medyam bhojanam tamasa priyam. Yata yamam, food cooked 3 hours before being eaten. Yuck. Gata rasam, tasteless. Now, this does not refer to prasadam when we talk about food cooked 3 hours before being eaten. Prasadam is always good. Putti, bad smelling. Paryushitam, decomposed. Cha, also. Yat, that which. Uchishtam, remnants of food eaten by others. Now that doesn't refer to remnants of food eaten by greatly advanced spiritualists. It just means leftovers by malechus. Anyway. Api also, cha, and. Amedyam, untouchable. Bhojanam, eating. Tamasa, to one in the mode of darkness. Priyam, dear. Translation. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. Food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid. And food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Purport. The purpose of food is to increase the duration of life, purify the mind, and aid bodily strength. This is its only purpose. In the past, great authorities selected those foods that best aid health and increase life's duration, such as milk products, sugar, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetables. These foods are very dear to those in the mode of goodness. Some other foods, such as baked corn and molasses, while not very palatable in themselves, can be made pleasant when mixed with milk or other foods. Now, let me explain this baked corn thing right now. In India, they have this thing called Indian corn. And when I went to Fiji, I was shocked that people liked it, because they would bake it, or put it over a fire or something like that in Fiji. And it was hard as a rock. It was horrible. Simply horrible. And, so from that, or from this verse here, we can understand that Prabhupada was referring to that sort of corn. Because the corn we get in America, which is called American sweet corn, is different. It's actually very sweet and very tasty, even by itself, even before you put something on it. And how do I know that I'm not disobeying Prabhupada's instructions? Well, I have a personal Prabhupada story to tell about this. Once upon a time, many years ago, I was in the kitchen in New Vrindavan, helping Shruti Kirti cook for His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So we decided to cook sweet corn for Prabhupada. And some devotees were saying, Prabhupada doesn't like it. It's not very nice. And the explanation that was given by others is that Prabhupada didn't like it because it was Indian corn, the hard stuff. I mean, when they give it to me in Fiji, I tell them that this is good for utilization as a hammer. That's what it's good for. I mean, it's really hard. It's also, it's a weapon. It's a legal weapon. You throw at someone, it can kill them. So, of course, I joke like that with the devotees. But still, they like it. It's just unbelievable how they like it. Anyway, so nowadays, they've learned to give me sweet corn, which they've started to grow there because they have a lot of tourists, and the tourists would never tolerate the corn that's grown locally. So anyway, getting back to the point. So me and Shruti Kirti made this sweet corn for Prabhupada. Just boiled it, that's all, and gave it to Prabhupada. I think there's some butter on it too. And lo and behold, Prabhupada asked for seconds. So the corn that Prabhupada is mentioning here is not the corn the people in Fiji and in India are accustomed to. Is the corn, is the corn. Whereas the corn that we're accustomed to in the Western world is not what Prabhupada is referring to here. So, they are in the mode of goodness. All these foods are pure by nature. They are quite distinct from untouchable things like meat and liquor. Yuck. Chew, liquor is so hellish. And I remember, tell you some stories that, of course, I was never drank liquor. One time I took a taste, not as a devotee, but I was at a religious ceremony, not Janmashtami, I assure you. It's a religious ceremony in a different religion, and you're supposed to take a little sip of this liquor. So I took a sip, and it was just so disgusting. So disgusting. And then later on, when I was here in North Carolina, we had a devotee who joined, or a person who joined the movement, and they were very much addicted to liquor. And I asked them, how can you tolerate liquor? And they said, it is sweet as nectar. So then I understood that people in different modes of nature are attracted to different things in this world. Fatty foods, as mentioned in the 8th verse, have no connection with animal fat obtained by slaughter. Animal fat is available in the form of milk, which is the most wonderful of all foods. Milk, butter, cheese, and similar products give animal fat in a form which rules out any need for the killing of innocent creatures. I'm going to comment on this. It is only through brute mentality that this killing goes on. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk. Slaughter is the way of subhumans. Protein is amply available through split peas, dal, whole wheat, etc. In fact, these particular products have more concentrated protein. Now, let's talk about milk, for example. The problem with milk in the Western world is several-fold. One is the method by which milk is produced, or the dairies, involves quite a bit of cruelty. We're not going to get into it. I think everybody knows that. And then also in the Western world, the cows that produce milk produce a type of milk called A1 milk, which has been shown to create so many difficulties in the body, such as, contributes to the formation of cancer, heart disease, clogging of the arteries, kidney disease, all these other things. So in India, the cows, which are called Deshi cows, they actually produce A2 milk. They're cows like the Gir cows and other cows like that. They produce A2 milk. And they produce less milk because people are not supposed to take that much milk when they actually take milk. Prabhupada said an adult should take maximum like 8 ounces a day. That's like a cup a day. And so when people take more, even if it happens to be good milk, you can end up in trouble. You can take more of a good thing, and it can cause you to have so many diseases. Or you can take the wrong form of a good thing, and it can cause you to have so many diseases. Or you can take something that is a byproduct of violence, and that can cause you to have mental disease. Anyway, so we are not against milk. And actually, if I go to India and I go to someone's house, and in that person's house, they have their cow that belongs to the family, they're going to protect the cow for their whole life, and they love the cow, then I'll take a little bit. So, foods in the mode of passion, which are bitter, too salty, or too hot, or overly mixed with red pepper, cause misery by reducing the mucus in the stomach, leading to disease. Foods in the mode of ignorance or darkness are especially those that are not fresh. Any food cooked more than 3 hours before it is eaten, except prasadam, food offered to the Lord, is considered to be in the mode of darkness, because they are decomposing you. Such foods give a bad odor, which often attracts people in this mode, but repulses those in the mode of goodness. I'll tell a story that was told by Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur about food in the mode of goodness. This is a story about preaching in Korea. It's either Korea or Taiwan. But anyway, so once upon a time, Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent his disciples to preach either in Korea or Taiwan. And they were preaching very enthusiastically, but they had trouble because each and every time they tried to cook something in ghee, they had so many complaints from the neighbors. The neighbors were going, ooh, horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, stop it. Actually, I remember same thing happened to me when I was cooking something in ghee over a relative's house. When I first joined the movement, I went to visit the relative, and I said, I'm going to cook something really nice for you. And they said, that smell. Ugh. Because ghee is in the mode of goodness. And it's used as a medium through which, or by which, Ayurvedic medicines are actually sometimes, let me turn off this thing, because people are harassing me. So, Ayurvedic medicines are mixed sometimes with ghee and other things. So, getting back to this, to the point of the story. So, anyway, so this disciple, or the group of disciples of Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they were making so many enemies by cooking with ghee, which is kind of funny. So then they discovered what was the delicacy that people really liked in the country. And that delicacy was called liquid dog. And how do they make liquid dog? Very interesting. I'll give you the recipe if you want to make it. No, certainly you should not want to make it. Everybody's house had a big vat. A vat is a big barrel or something, which you have a lid to. When I was in Europe, the devotees would make sauerkraut for the winter in these big vats, which is nice. Sauerkraut is a very nice traditional European food that keeps all winter long without spoiling. So anyway, they would have big, big vats. And into those vats, every time an animal died, whether it was a cat or dog or rat or cockroach or chipmunk or gorilla, I don't think they had gorillas there, they would throw it into the vat. They throw the body. So, and they seal the vat. You know, obviously you want to seal it. And so bubble, bubble, toil and trouble, Cauldron burn, cauldron bubble. So there was fermentation in there. Just like there's fermentation in sauerkraut too. So it fermented, and the devotees would tell their spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that each time one of the tops of the containers, the vats, were opened, it would fill the neighborhood with such a stench that you could hardly breathe. The people were not bothered. Interesting. So the devotees wanted to find out, what do you do with this? You know, you're just fermenting all these dead bodies. What do you do? And the devotees discovered that, like after a year or two, there was a tap. A tap means that there is like a spigot. Anyway, find a simpler word for those of you who don't know. Like a faucet. Okay, it's a simpler word. At the bottom of this vat, and they would tap off the liquid, and they would put it in bottles. And those bottles would say liquid dog. And that was the delicacy for the people there. Very expensive. Very, very expensive. So you see people, different modes of nature, they're attracted to different things. Liquid dog. That's a famous story that Prabhupada told. Remnants. So we're not interested in spoiled, putrid stuff. I remember when I was young, sometimes people would give me like Limburger cheese. Ooh. Maybe nauseous. Remnants of food may be eaten only when they are part of a meal that was first offered to the Supreme Lord or first eaten by saintly persons, especially the spiritual master. Otherwise, the remnants of food are considered to be in the mode of darkness, and they increase infection or disease. Such foodstuffs, although very palatable to persons in the mode of darkness, are neither liked nor even touched by those in the mode of goodness. I'll tell you a funny story about remnants. So when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement, I was very much into really opulent prasadam. Really opulent prasadam means like the sweets that we made for the Sunday feast, something called gulab-jamuns, which Prabhupada termed ISKCON bullets, which were dripping with sugar syrup, and malpura, anyway, so many things. Halava, sweet rice, pakoras, you name it. Everything had to have ghee or sugar in it. So I heard that prasadam never gets contaminated, which is true. So after the Sunday feast, and we had a lot of guests at the Sunday feast, and it's interesting, in those days, everyone would sit on the floor. We used to all be pretty humble. And the devotees would come around and serve us on the floor. It was actually kind of sweet. Just sitting there in a humble way being served. Of course, when you get old, you can't sit on the floor anymore, but I can. But anyway, so I would go around to the half-finished plates and pick out, all the wonderful sweets and everything like that from everybody's plate. And devotees would say, "What are you doing? How can you eat the remnants of someone else?" I said, "Prasadam never gets contaminated." And also I can tell you the Govardhan Puja story, that traditionally when people worship Govardhan Hill in India during the Govardhan Puja day, they would actually be throwing prasadam, and they would pick it up on the ground. Prabhupada describes this. And they would eat it because prasadam never gets contaminated. And Prabhupada was asked that question one time, whether we should eat something that someone else has touched or whatever. And Prabhupada said, you can do it, but you have to have faith. So I have that faith in prasadam. I have that faith in the holy name. And right now, as far as eating someone else's remnants, I think I'm the only one who eats kasha. So we go to the Sunday feast. There's basically nothing I can eat because they don't prepare kasha for everybody, except on Ekadashi. So my days of taking prasadam from other people's plates are over. Anyway, that's what happens when you get older. The best food is the remnants of what is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he accepts preparations of vegetables, flour, and milk when offered with love and devotion. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. Of course, devotion and love are the chief things which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts. But it is also mentioned that the prasadam should be prepared in a particular way. Any food prepared by the injunctions of the scripture and offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be taken even if prepared long, long ago, because such food is transcendental. Therefore, to make food antiseptic, eatable, and palatable for all persons, one should offer food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, there's that story about Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was actually brought kheer. Actually, it was milk. The Supreme Personality of Godhead when he was at Govardhan. And then when he realized that it was God who had brought him all these things, he actually kept the pot and he ate a little bit from the pot every day. And also that occurred at the Shirachora Gopinath temple too. So, see another story about that? Yes, oh yeah, when I was traveling in South India, I brought one devotee with us. We went to the Shirachora Gopinath temple and they had all these little pots of condensed milk offered to the deity who stole the sweet rice. And this devotee dried up this kheer that was in each and every pot and make little balls and kept them for a very long time. So prasadam never gets contaminated. However, one has to have the faith. So, next verse. Apalakang shivir no vidi drishto se ijate yastavyam eveti mana samadhaya sasatvika opa alkang shivihi. By those devoid of desire for result, yagnai, sacrifice, vidi dishta, according to the direction of scripture, yaha, which ijate, is performed. Yastavyam must be performed, eva certainly, iti thus, manaha mind, samadhaya, fixing sa it, satvikaha in the mode of goodness. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of scripture as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness. So remember this. A sacrifice that you do, or any activity that you do in this regard, if you follow the directions of the scripture, or scriptures, here it says scripture, and you do it because it's your duty and you want to please Krishna, I'm adding another one, and you're not desiring anything for yourself, that's the nature of goodness. Like I was asked the question the other day, a few days ago, how do you remain enthusiastic when you're preaching? You feel like you're hitting your head against the wall. You preach and you preach and you preach, or you share and you share and you share. No results come from it. Don't you get discouraged? Where do you get your enthusiasm from? Well, I explain two things. You get your enthusiasm from knowing that Krishna is pleased with you, as he says in the Gita. For those who teach this Bhagavad Gita to the devotees, to others, those people are most dear to Krishna. That's one point, that you're pleasing Krishna. Krishna's smiling at you. I mean, that's really the most important thing. And then another thing is, as Prabhupada said, to bring people to Krishna consciousness. I was listening to this morning on a class that was recorded, or conversation to be more precise. Prabhupada was saying to bring someone to Krishna consciousness, to have them accept Krishna consciousness, one has to be ready to shed gallons of blood. Not literally. Not just, you die. But really, that's the point. It takes so much effort to drag someone out of this material world with all their attachments. And they're holding on. They're holding on to their attachments for dear life. No, don't take away my attachments. Oh, Guru Maharaj, what are you doing to me? How will I live without my attachments? Like that story that I told before, that Indra one time was cursed to become a pig. So because he had violated some sage's wife or daughter or whatever. So anyway, he was cursed to become a pig. So he's there in the pigsty. And this is not the story of Pigpen. So, but he wasn't a pigpen. So he's there in the pigsty. And in the pigsty, he has his whole pig family and everything like that. You know, his aunts, uncles, cousins. And he has his own, I guess it was a himsa pigsty. Not so much a himsa, but at least it was free range. That's interesting because nowadays people say it's all right to eat this meat because it's free range meat. Free range means, of course, the animal gets to run around a lot before you cut his head off. It's like going to prison and then being condemned to death, and you have one last wish. Well, what is one last wish? I'd like to I'd like to eat a pizza before I die. Anyway, so Indra's there. He's become a pig. And so there's a vacancy in the heavenly planets because Indra has a lot of responsibilities. He's in charge of the administration. So what happens is that Lord Brahma comes down, some of the other demigods come down and say, hey, Indra, you got to come back. We need you. And Indra said, no, I can't come back there. I have so many responsibilities. Look, it's a big pig family. Actually, in different species of life, or if you have a body in a different species of life, that species appears to be very attractive to you. Just like if you are a female frog, you will find a male frog with his big rivet thing, that means his chin, that he expands. You will find him extremely attractive. If you're a peahen, you will consider a peacock very attractive. So this is a species of life. So he was thinking, oh my God, I have so many responsibilities in life, so many cute little piglets here. And so they were thinking, how can we get him back? So finally it was arranged that the farmer, who was in charge of the pigsty, which Indra was living in, started to kill all the little piglets and pigs and whatever. And Indra's pig wife, sorry. And then Indra thought, I better get out of here. So really that's a metaphor for this material energy, that we see everything being taken away by us by the time factor. I mean, maybe we're not pigs in a pigsty, but many people are no better than pigs in a pigsty because they're doing the same thing. Just eating, sleeping, mating, defending, in a more sophisticated way. Their sty, their pigsty, or their sty may be a 20-room mansion, but it's the same thing, the same principle. In essence, it's the same thing. Anyway, so we have all these attachments. So getting back to the point. So we're attached to the fruits of our labor. And so the spiritual master attempts by shedding gallons of blood. Oh my God. I need a transfusion. But it's by shedding gallons of blood. Prabhupada said this in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said this. He tries to bring people to Krishna. He's just struggling. It's a tug of war sometimes between Krishna and Maya. He's pulling the disciple, the soul. Come with me. And Maya, illusion, is saying, no, you have so many things to do, so many responsibilities, so many plans, so many people, too many desires. No. I remember, this is a funny story about myself. Just before I moved into a temple, I was living with some friends, on a farm. We were very happy, taking care of, not pigs, don't worry. It was a vegetarian farm. We were taking care of everything. And then I heard that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada was coming to town. This was in 1971. And all of a sudden, Krishna in my heart started to speak really loudly. Before that, he was whispering, or frankly, just opening his mouth. I had to lip read. So anyway, he spoke really loudly. He said, "Go and join the Krishna conscious movement. Do it." And I couldn't avoid what he was telling me to do. Nobody told me externally. In fact, they told me the opposite. People told me the opposite. So I just like, Prabhupada is coming. Prabhupada is coming. My guru is coming. Somehow or other. Remembrance from past life. That's it. So I said to the friends that I was living with, my dear friends, I'm joining the Hare Krishna movement. Hasta la vista, Prabhus, or whatever I call them. And they got really upset for a variety of reasons. They got really upset. I remember one of them put a dent in his car. I just remember it was just like so clear to me. It still is so clear to me that he took his fist and bang on the top of his car and put a big dent and said, "You can't do that. You have too much karma to work out, too many desires to work out." And I didn't have that many desires, too much karma. That was a bunch of hogwash. And so I said, no, I'm doing it. And so against their objections, I marched to the temple and off came my beautiful hair. Whew. Big loss. Anyway, and so basically because the friends had no one else to take care of them, which I was taking care of them because they've always been quite responsible, they actually joined the Hare Krishna movement about a week or two later, in time for Prabhupada. But it was even a week before Prabhupada came that was enough. The energy of Prabhupada coming in 1 week was enough to just like draw me like iron filings to a magnet. Draw me to just like completely give myself to Prabhupada. And I'd never done that before. I never gave myself to anybody in my whole life. But even a week before Prabhupada's presence, Prabhupada's mercy was so strong that it drew me in. That's amazing, isn't it? Even before I met Prabhupada. And of course, when I met Prabhupada, that was it. I recognized him immediately, and I gave my life to him immediately when I recognized Prabhupada. That's another story. So here, let's talk about sacrifices. The general tendency is to offer sacrifice with some purpose in mind, but here it is stated that sacrifice should be performed without any such desire. It should be done as a matter of duty. Take, for example, the performance of rituals in temples or in churches. Generally, they are performed with the purpose of material benefit, but that is not in the mode of goodness. One should go to a temple or church as a matter of duty to offer respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, offer flowers and eatables without any purpose of obtaining material benefit. But, even higher than the sense of duty is to do it to try to please Krishna. But right now, having a sense of duty is like devotional service in practice. Just like if you have to practice the piano. It's my duty every day to practice the piano. And my mother says, okay, it's your hour of practice today. It's my duty. But then after a while, you do it out of love. In the beginning, you're practicing. Everyone thinks that that's called Vaidhi Bhakti. And after a while, you come to the stage of Raganuga Bhakti. You have a taste for it. You love it. It's like Mangalarti. When I first came to Krishna consciousness, going to Mangalarti, it was a little bit of austerity, waking up early in the morning. But now it's just like I look forward to it. It's just like, wow. I get to go to Mangalarti. I am so fortunate. In the beginning, it's like Krishna describes happiness in the mode of goodness. In the beginning, it's a little bit like poison, waking up early, ungodly hour of 4 o'clock. Now I get up about 3. Ungodly hour. Woo. I used to go to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning. Everyone thinks that there is no use in going to the temple just to worship God. But worship for economic benefit is not recommended in the scriptural injunctions. Now let me explain something. In India, it's quite common for people to go to the deities, and also in America. I mean, that's the type of philosophy or religion that is preached in America in general. That if you have God's blessings, that means you're going to be wealthy and well situated, so go to God for that. And many of the mega churches, they pray like that. And in India too. In India, they're actually a little more sophisticated than that because they go and do bargains or make bargains with God. They go to the temple and say, hey, Balaji, do I have a deal for you, Balaji? Balaji is the name of Krishna, which means young Krishna. Okay. So Balaji, I have a deal for you. I'm going to invest in this particular stock or business or whatever. And if it's successful, I make a profit. I give you 50%. And so Krishna reciprocates. The guy's successful, and he gives the deity 50%. And there's that famous story I always tell about how one guy was giving the deity a little gold because he thought he'd become rich in that way. And he thought, oh, I want my son to have blessings, and I want my son to give the gold. It was like a gold piece or a gold bar or something. So he held his son over the donation box. And in this particular temple, the donation box is not just a box, it's a funnel, because people give, let's say, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of donations a day. And they have like 10 people constantly counting the money. So he held his son over the box, and by accident, he dropped his son into the box. And he went to the priest and he said, Prabhu, I dropped my son into the box. Can you bring him back to me? Of course, that's not the right accent. I understand that. And then the priest said, you have given him to Krishna. What is given to Krishna cannot be taken back. And so the poor man, he didn't have his son back. And so the son actually grew up and he became a great devotee of Krishna, went back to God and liberated the father. So it had a happy ending. One should go simply to offer respect to the deity. That will place one in the mode of goodness. It is the duty of every civilized man to obey the injunctions of the scriptures and offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Remember, this word, duty, is used quite a bit here. One has a sense of doing the right thing. And I've mentioned that many times before. This is my duty. This is the right thing. This is dharmic. That's mode of goodness. Higher than that is, Krishna, I'm yours. Take everything. Manasa deha gyeha. Yokishamor avilam tu yukari mandikashor. Everything in my mind, my body, my home. White, everything is yours. Okay. Next verse. Abhisandhaya tu phalam dambartam apichaiva yat ijate bharata shreshta tam yajnam vidi rajasam. And I think you're going to, by now, you should be able to identify some of these words here. You know, yajna means sacrifice, vidi you should know, rajasam means in the mode of passion. So, abhisandhaya, desiring to, but phalam, the result actually means fruit, which is the same thing as result. You know, what's the fruit of your activity, the result of your activities? Damba, pride. Artam, for the sake of, api, also. Cha, and, eva, certainly. Yat, that which. Ijite is performed. Bharata Shreshta, O chief of the Bharatas. Tam, that. Yajnam, sacrifice. Vidi, no. Rajasam, in the mode of passion. But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion. And we describe this. Purport. Sometimes sacrifices and rituals are performed for elevation to the heavenly kingdom or for some material benefits in this world. Such sacrifices or ritualistic performances are considered to be in the mode of passion. So, that's not Krishna conscious. And finally, we're going to talk about ignorance. Virihinam ashristanam mantrahinam adakshinam shada viragitam yajnam tamasam parichakshate. Virihinam, without scriptural direction. Ashrishta, Anam, without distribution of prasadam. Mantrahinam, with no chanting of the Vedic hymns. Adakshinam, with no remuneration to the priest. Shraddha, faith. Virahitam, without yagdam, sacrifice, tamasam, in the mode of ignorance. Parichakshate is to be considered. Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of Scripture, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns and remunerations to the priests, and without faith is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. So these things are all necessary. So even in the mode of passion, they're distributing prasadam, chanting Vedic hymns, giving donations to the priests, and they have faith it's going to work. But in the mode of ignorance, if they just do any damn thing according to their mental speculation or the mental speculation of someone else who has nothing to do or no connection with the Shastras. And we mentioned before, in the beginning of the chapter, that when you have a religion with no connection with the Shastras and one's in the mode of ignorance, then anything goes. Faith in the mode of darkness or ignorance is actually faithlessness. Sometimes people worship some demigod just to make money and then spend the money for recreation, ignoring the scriptural injunctions. Such ceremonial shows of religiosity are not accepted as genuine. They are all in the mode of darkness. They produce a demoniac mentality and do not benefit human society. In other words, generally in the mode of darkness, they're just making up their own rituals. And interestingly enough, many of the religious things that people do are not coming from Shastra. They're just coming from tradition. And I'll give you an example, one, before we take some questions. Prabhupada told the story about how one ritual started. He said, once upon a time, there was a bona fide Brahmin who was doing sacrifices. Okay, good guy, following the Vedas. Perfect. What's wrong? Nothing wrong. But this Brahmin had to happen to have a pet cat. Nothing wrong with that either. But unfortunately, this cat had an attraction to fire. So whenever the Brahmin did his fire sacrifice, that's called Agnihotra, this cat started to go too close to the fire. And you definitely don't want your whiskers burnt by the fire and your fur burned by fire. So the Brahmin was very protective of his cat. So he thought, I want to protect my cat. So he took the cat, put a little collar on the cat, and tied him nearby to a tree where the cat could watch the fire and get the spiritual benefit from hearing the Vedic mantras, but the cat wouldn't hurt himself in that way. And the Brahmana did a sacrifice. So this Brahmana, he was a guru too. And as a guru, he had many disciples. So the disciples watched him. And they wanted to emulate the guru. Generally, disciples want to copy the guru. So as they were watching him, they saw him tie the cat to the tree. And when they saw that, they wrote down in their deity worship handbook, or their sacrifice handbook, part of the procedure, this particular part, before the fire is lit, you actually tie a cat, find a cat first, of course, tie a cat to a tree. And therefore, this whole ritual started after this guru passed away, and of course his cat went back to Godhead. Then his disciples started doing the same thing. And his disciples' disciples started doing the same thing. And his disciples' disciples' disciples started doing the same thing, and it became part of their sampradaya. So that's not a bona fide ritual. So that's how rituals start. Someone starts it, and everybody continues. Like we were talking the other day about snapping your fingers. Someone starts it, someone makes up a story, and then everybody goes with it after that particular point. That's the problem. So therefore, we need Shastra. Shastra vidanutsrija vartate kamakarata. One who rejects the Shastra, nasukam na param gatim, can never be happy nor achieve the transcendental destination. Okay, on that note, we are going to take questions. Just give me 1 second. For those of you who are interested in asking questions, perfect questions, perfect answers. Okay, we can take questions now. Who wants to ask a question? No one? Do I have things set here properly? Hello? No one's asking a question.
Gurudev.
Oh, Mr. Gopal Code. Yeah.
So the modes of nature are something we acquire from previous lives to a certain degree, correct?
And also association in this life, your subtle body is affected by them, yes.
So if one comes to take better association later on, of course, we know that, effects from childhood are more deeply ingrained than when they're older. So
Yes.
for those of us that may have taken up better association as an adult, and we still have lingering bad association from our childhood,
Habits. Yeah, it's called habits. Yeah.
or habits, um, is there any mitigation of um, reaction from Krishna for understanding what we went through as a
Oh,
younger
mitigate.
person?
Yeah, Krishna is very understanding, and but you can actually conquer these things by always being absorbed in Krishna's service and keeping good association. We have we have to be aware of our past tendencies and past habits, so that when they rear their ugly head, we can identify them. So yes, Krishna is very merciful. He understands. Actually, uh, Krishna says, "My devotees considered saintly, besides, in spite of the most abominable action, because someone may do something accidentally, not premeditatedly, and Krishna will actually give you a pass for it." But Prabhupada said, Krishna gives you a pass 2 times, on the third strike, you're out. Krishna is very merciful. He's not just a ritual God. He knows how hard you're trying. He knows what you have to struggle with. So he'll cut you some slack. It's like, do you play golf, Gopal?
No.
No. You know what a handicap is?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about a physical handicap.
No, I know
I'm
what you
talking
mean.
about there's a handicap in golf.
Yeah.
Like this sort of like equals the playing field for people who have different
Right.
skill sets or levels of skill.
I
So
can take
Krishna's
20 strokes, but for a guy who's knows golf, he only gets 10 for my 20.
Yeah, that's right. So in other words, if you do something wrong, then there'll be some sort of reaction. If I do the same thing wrong, woo-hoo, that's it.
Right.
Curtains.
So can I ask a follow-up question?
I'm not anyway. That's just trying to illustrate the point. That may not be factual, but just trying to illustrate the point. With more, what is your favorite saying, Gopal?
With great power must come great responsibility.
With great power comes great responsibility. So with knowledge comes greater responsibility. You'll find in the fifth canto of the Bhagavatam that the punishments for Brahmins are actually more severe than the punishments for ordinary Joes. So what's the next question?
So sometimes we see that due to perhaps even previous life, someone suffers from mental illness where it's somehow perhaps even physically impossible for them to take good association, to do service, or to participate the way others can. And in fact, as the years move along, we see more and more people suffer from this. So what is,
Mental illness, physical illness. There's different reasons. I mean, it's between them and Krishna. I'm not going to just give one pat answer for everything, but at one point, Prabhupada commented that if someone finds themselves unable to associate with devotees, it may be due to past offenses that Krishna is keeping them away from devotees. Because when we commit offenses against devotees, and I've seen this too, when people commit offenses against devotees, it actually, not only do they lose their taste, but they lose their, in other words, lose their taste for hearing and chanting, but they lose their attraction for being with devotees. So that's one of the, it's Krishna's protecting the other devotees. So yeah, just be careful.
of course, sometimes we see those people go on the internet and harass those devotees endlessly.
Yes, because they're acting like demons. I mean, we were just talking about someone like that on our GBC conference today. Someone who previously was trained up by Prabhupada in Sanskrit, and then because he got so proud of his Sanskrit learning, he began to criticize Prabhupada, and Prabhupada actually eventually got rid of him and called him a snake. And he's still doing that today. He's going on the internet and doing that. Yeah, that happens. People commit offenses. We have to be very careful. That's why Lord Chaitanya states, Trinadapi Sune Chena Torari Vasahishna, Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. One has to be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of any desire for false prestige. Someone appreciates me, someone loves me. The roar of the crowd, the smell of the grease paint. I don't know if you know that expression. You probably do. The applause from my fans, the puja. One person said to me, I really like getting worship. It really brings me great enthusiasm. Actually, if I ever have to sit through a Guru Puja, it was actually fun because we used to throw cookies a lot. You probably remember that. That was fun.
I still have the scars.
And I used to invite my godbrothers who were gurus to sit next to me, and they would throw the cookies with me, Bhakti Tirthamars and others. So that sort of thing was fun. But really, if someone is appreciating you and worshiping you or whatever, glorifying you, you should be giving that credit to Guru and God. And, we become very proud, especially being very learned is dangerous. Or being very beautiful, Janma Ishvarya Shutasha Shibira Enamana Dapuman. Intelligence or beauty or good birth, being a Kohanim. Anyway, so hope that answers your question. So we have to be careful. Or we could be put into a situation sometimes where we can't associate with devotees for one reason or other. I'm not saying that everybody who can't associate is due to offenses. That's not my statement. There's reasons, and Krishna has reasons. Krishna may be keeping someone away from the devotees to increase their intensity of desire. I mean, that's an individual reciprocation between the devotee and Krishna. I'm not going to analyze everybody because I'm not Krishna. But, there's a reason. Nothing happens by accident. Nobody is put into a situation by accident because not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right?
Thank you, Gurudev.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gopal Dev. So we got another question or two we can answer. Who else has a question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I've got a question.
Okay. Oh, Joe.
Yes, Hari Bol.
Good to see you. Yeah.
In foods in the mode of goodness, I see sugar was in there.
I was hoping to avoid that one.
Yeah, we talk, so I was just wondering, I appreciate that you can have too much of a good thing, too much sugar, but how do you get that balance between, obviously, sugar is something that Krishna likes, and so if we're cooking things that Krishna likes, but it's not necessarily good for us, what's the right balance?
Okay, so let me talk about sugar first. Generally, we think about sugar cane. Sugar cane was brought either by the British or some foreigners to India. The sweeteners that they had before were things like, the tree sap that they sweetened up, the palm sugar, honey, things like that. I mean, that's one point that I wanted to make. Another point is that within reason, sugar is not necessarily bad. I mean, for example, sometimes you eat a sweet potato, and sweet potato is sweet. So the proper proportion, sugar is not bad. And now, of course, I find that devotees, they take too much sugar. They take too much milk, much milk or milk product. And one has to be really conscious of controlling themselves. People are addicted to sugar sometimes. I personally don't take sugar. And Krishna, Krishna likes things that are sweet. But Krishna also has a transcendental body, Satchidananda, Vigraha. I have a body that's Asat, Achit, and Nirananda, which is the opposite, which is temporary, full of ignorance and suffering, and not happy. Anyway, you get the idea.
Yep.
So we offer things to Krishna. I personally try to make the arrangement when we offer milk, it should be ahimsa milk to Krishna. That means from cows that are not going to be slaughtered, and preferably A2 milk. So we try our best in this regard. But I myself, and there are a lot of people in this world also who are allergic to milk. I mean, particularly people of certain racial backgrounds don't have the proper digestive system, or anyway, certain hormones or whatever, they cannot digest the milk. So whatever. I mean, it's not just an all or nothing or black or white thing. And I know the Prabhupada says there's another thing about milk, since we're talking about it. Prabhupada says that one needs the milk to develop the finer brain tissues that lead one to think about the path of self-realization. So people often say to me, because I'm not taking milk, I'm not going to have any finer brain tissues, and I'm not going to think about self-realization. That's an interesting comment. So maybe it's true, but anyway. So it is true. Prabhupada's statement is true. I'm not disagreeing with Prabhupada. There are certain ingredients of milk that are extremely important, and if you don't take milk, you have to supplement with other things to make sure you get those particular ingredients. There's a lot of supplements nowadays that people have to take, especially if they're going to be vegans and healthy. So, but sugar, yeah, sugar, probably. Uh-oh, Goku Bandhu, put yourself on mute. Okay, I think we have something from Mother Irmila. Yes, unmute yourself if you want to speak.
Yeah, I really thought a lot about where Krishna says that sacrifice without remuneration to the priest is in the mode of ignorance. It's one of the things that Kamsa did. Kamsa stopped all remunerations to brahmanas when he was trying to persecute everybody. And I'm wondering, in ISKCON, when we don't properly take care of brahmanas, when we don't sufficiently make sure they're protected and taken care of, does that move what we're doing into or influence it by the mode of ignorance? Because
I would tend to agree with you. It actually there's some influence of the mode of ignorance. If there's not proper reciprocation, like we have Dadati Pratigranati Guyamakiyati Prichati, that's the reciprocation, part of the reciprocation, giving gifts, accepting gifts. I would agree with you completely. And I always tell the story about one time I did a sacrifice and people put gold coins in the sacrifice, and I thanked them for the gold coins after doing the sacrifice. And they said, no, we were just purifying the gold coins. And then another time I did a sacrifice to a car, and I said, thank you for offering this to Krishna, which they said. And then they said, no, we're taking back our car. So, so anyway, there has to be remuneration and prasadam distributed, not just remuneration. Thank you for that. It's actually true. We don't properly appreciate people. I mean, or we appreciate only certain class of people, like the guru gets appreciated, but not everybody who's actually contributing to our spiritual life gets appreciated. That reciprocation, like Guru Dakshin, for example. Of course, I'm not complaining. I get enough Guru Dakshin. I can eat enough kasha to satisfy myself. There's not a problem with that. There's not a personal complaint because I don't have any problem. But Prabhupada said the sacrifice of initiation is not complete unless you give some dakshin. So it's also like knowledge. Knowledge is, or giving knowledge. Thank you for asking this question. Giving knowledge to someone, the reciprocate, unless there's some reciprocation, it's not a complete transmission of knowledge. So I would agree 100%. And specifically in ISKCON, we have to have some culture where people who are giving knowledge, not just the gurus. I mean, unfortunately, we have really a top-heavy culture where the gurus, like me, get all the prophet adoration distinction, Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim. You know, instead of chanting the Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim, I chant Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim. So anyway, that's my mantra. we even have a Sundari who dances before the deities every morning. So anyway, apart from that, so it's just a joke. So anyway, because people can take me literally at this point. So the point is, yes, there has to be reciprocation. Anyone who does anything for us, especially giving us knowledge, you have to reciprocate. And it needs to be a change of culture. And in ISKCON, I mean, I have not seen so much of training. This is actually a bone I have to pick. Sorry for that statement. They have not seen so much training in etiquette. And many of our Indian members have much more etiquette, like ordinary etiquette in that regard, than the Western people. I mean, I see, like this, I mean, let me complain right now, since everybody here, practically everybody is from India. I see the people from India, they have etiquette, they reciprocate, they come to the temple, they help clean the pots, they give donations to the deities. And the Western people, generally our Western congregation, not everybody, they come, they eat prasadam, they chat with each other, and they go away. And they're too busy to do anything or to help. And that's one reason why ISKCON has actually become very dependent on our congregation from India, because they're the ones with that sort of culture. And and I'm sure you as a preacher probably experience more reciprocation from the Indians than you have from the Westerners. I may be wrong, may be right, but I've experienced the same thing, because there's actually that culture when someone does something for you, you reciprocate. Very, very good point. I appreciate that, and that makes the sacrifice bona fide and free from the influence of the mode of ignorance. That there is that reciprocation, prasadam being distributed, and remuneration. I mean, whatever one can give to the person who is helping one. Okay, attitude of gratitude, Gopal said. And Jai Radhika just gave me a quote from the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam. It is mentioned that due to ignorance, 5 gross elements get created due to the mode of passion. Mind gets created due to the mode of goodness, false ego gets created. Okay, attitude of gratitude. Let's all remember that. And we'll see everybody tomorrow at the same time, same station. Thank you very much for joining us. All glories to Prabhupada.